Hey guys, it's Charles with the Sports Allegiances podcast, and as always, with Stephen Guerin, Aaron McFessel, and Alex Muncy, we're gonna kick it off with some NBA talk here. We're about the halfway point in the season. A lot of different things going on. It's kind of a year like older years that we haven't been used to getting in recent years, if any of that makes sense. So, Steve, kick us off with what you're thinking. We're about the halfway point. Some ups, some downs. Let's get it going.
Yeah, I kind of want to take back what I said on our last NBA video a couple months ago, when I literally talked about how there was zero parity in the NBA and we were just going down the same path that we were going down for the last couple years. I think I've truly turned a corner. I think the NBA's turned a corner. There's legitimately 7 or 8 teams I think that could win the finals. And I don't think that's a stretch to say that. I would say at least the top 4 teams in each league are legitimate contenders. In the West, you have the Warriors. Of course, they're going to be there. The Thunder, with what Paul George and Russell Westbrook are doing right now. Is Paul George the MVP? I think, yeah. We had that conversation, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we had that argument about James Harden or Paul George. Paul George is taking over the league right now. He's playing some unbelievable basketball. The Thunder are dangerous. The Nuggets are, they're hanging around. They're kind of, they kind of stalled for a second, but I think they should be back to where they need to be soon. And Houston, yeah. You got James Harden still, and he can fill it up, and you got Chris Paul. So, I think they're definite contenders. And then in the East, I think the East is wide open. I think people are kind of giving up on Boston too soon, saying that there's something wrong there. Kyrie's not happy. There's too much talent on that team. And if you watch, that 7-game series they had with Cleveland last year, the Celtics are legit, and they're going to be legit for a long time. They have Hayward back. They didn't have Hayward in that series. I think, in the playoffs, let that team turn it on, and I think they're going to be really good. Philly, they've got 5. They got a solid 5 now. With the trade acquisition that they made. Aaron's going to go into that, but and then Toronto, they're there, and I think all those teams I think are great. I think there's finally some parity in the league, and I think this is probably going to be the most interesting playoffs in a long time, going into the NBA finals.
Right on.
So I only have really a few points to touch on here. And one of them, Steve just sparked. I think everybody at the beginning of the season, or whenever LeBron decided to go LA, everybody said the worst thing he could do is go to the West. That'd be the worst decision he'd ever make. And I think it was the best decision for the NBA as a whole for him to go West. It kind of balances out the league a little bit. Now, with that being said, LA is not really relevant right now. I don't really think they're going to be relevant going down the stretch. But it opened up the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference is wide open, and I think that's really good for the NBA to see. Now, my second point going into this, before I touch on the Sixers, who are kind of exciting right now, is the 2 most overrated teams right now, in my opinion, the Houston Rockets and the Boston Celtics, both of which are 5 seeds right now, which I think would be considered woefully underachieving for 1 and 2 seeds last year in the NBA. In the NBA playoffs, 1 and 2 seeds. And Boston just lost Kyrie to a knee strain. He stated his day-to-day, but we'll see. It's been shown, it doesn't matter how many points Harden puts up, the Houston Rockets are not good enough defensively to go down the stretch and be effective. Because you look at what James Harden's putting up, 60 points in a game, but these games are not blowouts by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
And Boston, they have all the talent in the world. In my opinion, they just don't click cohesively like they should, like you think they should. My honest opinion, the Sixers are the only threat to the Bucks right now in the East for the 1 seed, to threaten for the 1 seed. And that being said, their trade deadline acquisitions, there's no secret they want to win right now. They don't care. Right now, Tobias Harris, 2 games in, he looks exactly like the 5th man that
they need him to be.
Sixers need. Yeah, they've needed. Jimmy Butler he's been kind of inconsistent this season. I think Tobias Harris is a perfect acquisition for Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, JJ Redick to spot up and shoot threes. I mean, that team is going to be good going down the stretch. They're sitting at the 4 seed right now, but they can make a run at it. I'm happy with what they did. And Toronto is still too much of a question mark for me. I don't really have many thoughts on them. They could do it. It wouldn't surprise me either way. Charles, what do you think?
So, I mean, honestly, I agree. You know, Kobe said it himself. He's like, you know, playing the style of basketball that Houston's playing isn't going to win a championship. It's kind of like the old adage we use in the NFL, you know, offense can win you games, but ultimately it comes down to defense that wins championships. James Harden doesn't play defense. We all have talked about that and know that. Hasn't his whole career, but I'll tell you what, I think the Celtics are something like kind of like the wild card in there, just for the simple fact that they're as good as they want to be. They remind me a lot of, you know, Aaron and Alex, us three have talked about this. They remind me a lot of, again, I'm an NFL guy, the Seahawks and Broncos, in terms of they play up or down to their competition. You know, that they could lose one night to the Cavs, and then they could turn around and play the Warriors and hit them shot for shot. Very confusing, very hard to read. But if they get that groove, I see them, you know, challenging the Bucks for sure for that Eastern Conference. And you know, I mean, the Sixers are going to be the Sixers. I love the Tobias Harris acquisition because you turn around and like you said, Aaron, you know, Jimmy Butler's an all-star, but he's not the type of all-star that's going to be there night in, night out like a Paul George, like a Steph Curry, you know, et cetera. So on those nights that he's not there, you can have Tobias Harris, if he needs to, step up and score 25, step up and score 21 with 7 in you know, 5 or 6. Russell Westbrook, and he finally got his Batman Superman thing going with Paul George. You know, we've tried with James Harden, obviously, and that didn't work. Kevin Durant, I'm sorry. And it's really good to see, you know, Russell's only averaging, I think, like 21, 22 points a game. But he's also, you know, going on 7 or 8 straight triple doubles, I believe. So if he can keep doing that with Paul George being Paul George, look out in the West. The Warriors look vulnerable, but as we said in the last NBA video, outside of the one with Alex English, the Warriors are going to be the Warriors, man.
They've seemed to turn it on as of late.
Yeah, exactly. They know what they need to do, and when they need to start the key, they're going to start the key. And I think 1 or 2, and I think one of the teams being Denver, and I think the other team, you know, being is kind of the other. There's 3 teams I believe in the West, and it's the Warriors, it's Denver, and then the third, you know who I'm going to say, is I think LeBron is doing what LeBron's doing for a reason. I think that he wants to get that 8th seed and knock the Warriors out actually sooner than he would.
There's no way. There's no way that Lakers team is beating the Warriors in 7. There's no way. He wants to get him. He wants to get him now. I'm not saying they're going to sweep. I'm not going to say they're going to win him.
Yeah. I would say I think LeBron wants the Warriors earlier in the playoffs. But the thing is, LeBron needs to get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right now, what are they? 2.5, 3 games outside of the 8th seed. They're behind the Sacramento Kings and the Clippers right now for that 8th seed. And I think the worst thing LeBron could have done, or the Lakers that could have happened, is LeBron's first real injury of his career. It was too big of a stretch, and they are sitting at 500 right now, which is they could be drowning, but I don't know. We'll see if they.
Well, I mean, you gotta think it's only mid-season. Like, we still have a whole another half of the season. But another thing people need to realize when we're talking about the 76ers or Boston, which Boston, in my opinion, they're great. There's something going on in the locker room. I think when it comes to the NBA now, there's too much drama. Like, you could talk about NFL or even NHL and be like, yeah, you know, my buddy's LeBron, you know, so we're going to go play with LeBron. Oh, people start, like, shutting you out in the locker room. That's how I see Boston. I think Boston Boston's locker room, there's no camaraderie right now, and that's why they're losing. I don't see them getting back on track. So I think Boston is done. They may win.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but you got to think like, so there's a 5 seed with a completely dysfunctional locker room right now. You know what I'm saying? They're at the 5 seed. So if they can continue that, and then finally, like as the end of the season nears, just kind of, I don't know if it's a team retreat on a day off or something or whatever they need to do, a dinner, and just be like, hey, let's get everything out. Let's plan for this championship. We don't know if we're going to be together next year, but this year's what matters.
Right.
So keep going.
But another thing is that when we're looking at these playoff teams right now, you got to look at depth. Like you got a starting 5. Oh, cool. I mean, look at the Warriors winning teams, championship teams. Look at the Cavs winning teams. Like there is a lot of depth. Now, the only team that I think is the deepest is Denver, but I feel like they're a little too young. Like you have to beat the Nuggets to beat them, obviously. But if you give them a chance, they'll beat you. If you don't give them a chance,
kind of playing into that, Alex, and the Nuggets' depth, they've lost 3 games in a row for the second time this season, as we sit currently. And I'm not really panicking because they are kind of battling the injury bug right now with Paul Millsap, who can't seem to stay healthy. And
how many points did they lose by, though?
Still out.
But
that's what I'm saying is I think it's, we are being tested by this injury bug, and the Nuggets do seem to have a lot of depth, but it's good to put out these young players who have shown promise. They're getting some serious minutes right now. And yeah, we're not getting the outcome we want, speaking as a Nuggets fan, but you can't argue that they're getting experience that's going to prove vital come playoff time. I think this young core in Denver is good enough to maintain that 2 or 3 seed,
right,
even though top 5 can't really stay healthy. And then when we collectively get healthy, we can really turn it back on and make some noise. Some other news, just while I thought about it, Isaiah Thomas expected to return within a couple weeks. I think that will prove interesting.
Yeah, that'll be – yeah. I mean, we saw how that experiment worked in Cleveland. It didn't, and I mean, he's been gone. I mean, he's been out for a while. He hasn't played basketball in a long time, and it's like, I mean, and back to touch on the Nuggets really quick. Like they have to be the 2 seed. They have to be, because they are so good at home. Like if they drop down any farther, like that team's in trouble. They've got to have home court until the finals, until the Western Conference Finals. If they beat like Golden State. What
I was saying was that, look at the Rockets. They have James Harden, Chris Paul. You got James Harden, who is your only way of producing points. You have the Thunder, who have an MVP and Russell Westbrook. He's gonna put up stats no matter what. But who else do they have? They don't have the depth.
I take the Thunder right now over the Warriors in 7 games. There's something about willpower and about, I think Westbrook would literally will that team to a win in a 7-game series right now.
It's something like we talked about.
It's something weird, but it would happen.
Because going back to what we were saying was that the Cavs. Whoa, yeah, I saw your hat. The Warriors, they play when they need to. Like they're 2 games or 3 games ahead. They don't need to play playoff basketball or a 7-game series. You put them in that 7-game series, I think they're still best team in the West.
They are.
I think
we're not
kind of touching on the Rockets for a second, because this is not the most talented Thunder team. Did I say Rockets? The Thunder. This is not the most talented Thunder team that has been assembled. It's not the most talented roster. But I think Russell Westbrook, who I've not been a huge fan of his, really his entire career, mainly because he's never been comfortable being a Robin to someone's Batman. You saw that with Kevin Durant, and it never seemed to click. Westbrook always seemed to be shooting them out of the playoffs. And I think it started that way with Paul George. Westbrook's thinking, finally, I have the Robin to my Batman. And it just doesn't work that way. And I think he's finally accepting that secondary role behind a Paul George And I think if Westbrook had that mentality when Durant was in town, they probably have a title, in my opinion.
I also think that I mean, we can go back, but I think that that's the root of why Scott Brooks got fired. You guys got to remember Scott Brooks for a long time had James Harden coming off the bench behind Thabo Cephalosha.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a huge thing. Also, I don't know. The Thunder. It's kind of like, God, I do so many comparisons with the NFL. It's stressful. Kind of like the Saints next year. How we said, that their will alone is going to make them probably one of the best teams in the NFL.
But the Saints are keeping their core together, though.
And so I understand. No, you're good. I understand that. But what I'm saying is Russell Westbrook keeps hearing the Steve Young adage. You remember, get the monkey off my back? Russell Westbrook keeps saying you're not going to win you're not going to beat the Warriors nor you're going to win a finals playing the way that you play. You're not going to do it. Multiple analysts say that. There's players that say that.
I've said it.
But Russell Westbrook has, like Steve said, that willpower. I think if it's a tied series at 3-3, kind of 1-1, 1-1, then that seventh game, I think that willpower can take over or can compensate for the talent that Golden State has. And I'm not gonna say they're gonna shoot them out by 30, but they could win.
But I mean, with that, I see what you're saying, but that's one player versus 5 people.
No, there's 2 players there. Like there's two.
There's 2, but we're talking.
They got 2, and they've got 2 really, really elite level players that can take over a series. The NBA is the most unique in terms of playoff, like in any sport, because guess what? It only takes 1 or 2 guys to take over a series, and it's over. It's over. You can't compensate for that. And those 2 guys alone, they can play above Steph Curry's talent, KD's talent. They can play above those guys' talent because that's who they are. I mean, the Thunder, they're not as bad as I think people think.
It's a team sport. Look at the Cavs versus the Pacers. Roy Hibbert goes up for that block on LeBron. Indiana's in the finals. I think. Yeah. It's a team sport. You can't just rely on those 2 people. You got to have that's what's wrong with
not in the NBA. The NBA is
that's what's wrong with the Rockets, though.
2-player sport.
That's what's wrong with the Rockets, though, is that they are relying on one player who's putting up 120 points by himself, and they're losing.
But because that one player isn't turning around and playing a full game. He's not playing a complete game.
Yeah, he's not averaging triple doubles.
Yeah, the Thunder have two players who are all-stars, gold medalists in the Olympics.
MVP.
MVP caliber every year. Who can play offense, defense. They can get boards. They can do whatever they need to do. And I think that's what Steve's saying. There's a tenacity that you see. I'm sorry, from Russell Westbrook definitely, but even Paul George this year, kind of like that chip on his shoulder. It's like that the Warriors don't need to have that. Why would you have it? You won everything. Hell, probably won a few people's houses down there. Take those 2. Right. But
Paul George is just playing at a different level right now.
Yeah, he is.
My only argument is that you look at past champions.
What do we have to go off of? Like, if you look at the last, 4 champions?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
What do we have to go off of?
Look at the depth that they have.
4 super teams have won the prior finals.
Right. There's only
this year, I believe, is the first year in 4 years that we don't have a super team win the finals.
I wouldn't call Cleveland's championship a super team.
The 2016 team was not a super team.
I wouldn't call them a super team.
No.
Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James?
No.
I mean, Kevin Love.
I wouldn't call them a super team. I call that a big 3. I don't call it a super team.
Tristan Thompson was a killer on the boards as well. I mean,
that team was fantastic.
They had a squad.
J.R. Smith.
Everyone
one of those dunks on J.R. Smith as a terrible player. Go watch that 2016 NBA Finals and don't tell me J.R. Smith didn't have an impact in that game or in that series. He played out of his freaking mind in that series.
They're not a super team.
So it was a super team. They beat a super team. Super teams only lose to other super teams. That's how it works.
Not true.
Oh,
But-
come on. You can't.
A super
come
team
on.
is
Eric,
is
you're like everyone in the world.
all-stars.
Cleveland could win every championship every single year, and you would find a problem with it every single year. You're a hater in terms of when it comes to Cleveland. 2016 was a super team. The Warriors have had super teams.
Listen, Charles and Alex can attest to this. You will not find a bigger LeBron James fan than me. I'm probably the only one out of the four here that will stand up saying LeBron's the greatest of all time. I loved the
Yeah,
Cavaliers,
what are you talking about?
but that wasn't a super team. It's,
God,
come on.
I'm gonna have to agree because you take LeBron James out of each one of those players' careers, what have they done?
I think that Cavs team. You take LeBron James. That Cavs team is still a 2 or 3 seed in the East.
The East was weak.
With Kyrie
Yeah.
Irving, Kevin
What?
Love.
No, okay. I guarantee you the Pacers would have destroyed them. You take LeBron off the Cavs team.
No, because here's the thing, though. Think about it. Okay, they play a certain way because you have LeBron James, right? You play a certain way, but you take him out. You play a whole different style with Kyrie and Kevin Love. I believe those two are 2 or 3 seed in the East.
They had Richard Jefferson coming off the bench. They had a steady team.
That team was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not taking anything away from them because they won, but
Not either.
all I'm saying is if you take away LeBron James, they don't.
I'm
go
not
to
saying they beat the Warriors. No, they don't.
Probably the funniest thing I've ever heard.
But what he's saying though is like when you take out or when LeBron's there, the guys like Kevin Love, the guys like J.R. Smith, the guys like Kyrie Irving even don't have to be Kevin Love, J.R. Smith, or Kyrie Irving. That we always talk about the role player with LeBron James. They can be that role player because LeBron's going to run everything.
Kyrie Irving's the top 3-point guard in this league.
Yeah, I agree. And when Kyrie needs to play, look what he did with Boston. I mean, he led Boston to threatening at least last year. You know what I'm saying? So with Gordon Hayward out, not saying he didn't have any help. Jason Tatum's.
Gordon Hayward's the Alex Smith in the NBA. Just leaving it at that.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Starting a little off topic.
So
The last
anyway,
thing I really want to say, to reel this video back in after that hilarious statement. Indiana
Wait,
Pacers-
no, we're not leaving on that. No, that was at a hilarious statement.
oh buddy,
We
Well,
got a couple
we
minutes
can talk
left
about
in the
this
video.
off
We
the
can
air.
talk about it right now.
The last thing I wanted to say is I think a team that's going to surprise some people. I don't think they're going to be a threat come playoff time, but I think a team that's going to surprise a lot of people by maybe staying at a 2 or 3 seed is the Indiana Pacers. I think everybody expected a fall off since Victor Oladipo is done for the season, but they are the best defensive team in the league. They're the best. They're the number 1 defensive team in the league right now, and
But
I think they can probably maintain a 2 or a 3 seed, which is what they're going to need if they want to be competitive down the stretch.
But
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, the team isn't a 2 or 3 seed. Okay.
yeah, you need that person to turn to.
Yeah.
Who is the Pacers that person now with Oladipo hurt?
Who can score on that team?
Yeah,
That-
yeah, exactly. Like it's game 7, series obviously tied 3-3, fourth quarter, and you're down by 15. Who are you giving the ball to?
I don't think what I just said is I don't think they're going to make a lot of noise or go deep into the playoffs. But what I'm saying is everybody expected them to fall off when they've maintained their defensive dominance.
So
I don't
they
think
can
they're gonna
maintain,
fall
but everyone else in the East is just silently creeping up. You see, they're not going to stay 2 or 3. I don't believe.
No.
It'd be awesome if they did. Congratulations, but I don't. Without Oladipo, I mean, honestly, I don't see it coming. But if they do, kudos to you. That'd be awesome. Do you guys have anything else to say?
No,
or-
I'm done.
No, I think we're.
Apparently, my most ridiculous statement I've ever said on here, which there's a video that I think if you talk to some of those people, I've made a more ridiculous statement. But
So guys,
read the
we're
comments.
gonna leave you guys with the question of the week here. Who do you guys think is your dark horse in the NBA? Maybe someone we didn't even mention. Maybe someone kind of not in the playoff picture. Who's gonna come up and kind of take the league by storm this year? Again, we're at the half point. Anything can happen. Like, comment, subscribe. Sports Allegiances podcast on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and tell us what you guys think. You know, we'll respond. We'll interact with you guys. So yeah, for Alex Muncy, Aaron McFessel, and Stephen Guerin, this is Charles Jernigan signing off. Thank you guys.